There is no argument for why Ishiki could possibly beat Kaguya other than just um, accepting blind consensus without reason. And they'll say, but it's the consensus though, man. And it's like, the problem being though is when the consensus isn't based on anything. So the consensus is right because the consensus said so, and there's no reason to support the consensus because the consensus isn't based on anything. It's one thing if I said, well, the consensus is the Earth isn't flat, because the consensus that the Earth isn't flat is actually based on something. It's not based on the fact people are saying so. That is just kind of a fact that occurs because of the evidence. It's not like it's a faith where people are believing it because it's their belief. It's factual. Where with the boruto arguments, it's entirely faith-based. You can't cite one example where this is even remotely supported. You could go down the lines of reasons that the boruto stance lists too, and none of them even make sense. You'll get people who say, well, Ishiki's a higher rank than Kaguya. And this whole argument is so dumb because it ignores how fundamentally this series works. There are plenty, and I mean plenty, of examples where characters of a lower rank are stronger. Example, Naito Dai. He beat all the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist, all of them, so badly that all of them except 3 died. Every single one of them except 3 died. And the 3 that lived had to flee because they got beat that badly. And mind you, Naito Dai was a genin. So this idea that rank is the important factor here is just absurd. And then you'll get people who go, well, Ishiki was off guard. And it's like, this has never been a factor in a fight before. And when it has been a factor, it was a factor between opponents who are relatively equal in terms of power. Example being Hashirama versus Madara, Sasori versus Chiyo and Sakura. Like, it's not like they were a million times weaker on either side. I mean, maybe like Sasori retards who like don't have a brain will say that, but like it's never been the case in series that people who are like a million times weaker just are able to strike down the opponent without without proper power. Did you think when the Kurama attack on the village occurred, do you think nobody tried to sneak Kurama? That happened on screen, and you know what happened to the guys who tried to sneak Kurama? They got flicked away. That's what would happen. If the gap between Kaguya and Ishiki is so vast, then what Kaguya would be doing is she'll throw an attack out, Ishiki would tank it, and then he'll kill Kaguya, if that's how big the gap was. I mean, we dead-eye see in the work, at the end, Naruto throws 8 Rasen Shurikens at him. 8. They're all Biju Rasen Shurikens too, amped by 6 paths power, so these are very powerful moves. And Kaguya tanks every single one of them, like nothing happened. Her quo's uneven damaged. So, I don't know this idea where, like, just because a character is, like, not paying attention or something, they could just not tank anything. This is a Boruto fan idea, because the series isn't actually trying to portray them as strong as what the fans are. This is entirely kind of like a fan over the actual series thing. Example being like, there was actually this whole example in real life where people were calling the Bernstein Bears, or whatever. It was like, that was an example of like people or fans coming up with like a different, word to describe these characters. And this is the same in the Boruto fan base, except it's like to an extreme degree. They outright deny the evidence. They're like, evidence is bad, our fan belief is right. It's so funny, too. We have this character of Kashin Koji. He's like a knockoff Jiraiya clone who's like a weaker version of the original Jiraiya. He just like clings on to the legacy of Jiraiya. He's not even like surpassing Jiraiya. He's just clinging to whatever power Jiraiya had. He's clinging on to that man's mighty fate, as the manga said. He's clinging on to that mighty power. He doesn't have it himself. He's just clinging on to it. And this man, who's described as being like a like false remnant of what Jiraiya once was, this man is able to like fight off Ishiki, block his punches, and even fuck up and kill Jigen. So is the logic train trying to tell me that Kashin Koji solo's Kaguya? I mean, some people think that, but these same people kind of ignore that Kakashi was also keeping up with Kashin Koji, so is Konohamaru, but I guess Konohamaru solo's Kaguya too, and I guess the White Zetsu he fought solo's Kaguya as well, and I guess Jugo does too, because he fought Konohamaru. At a certain point, we have to admit this is a fan belief. Like, this isn't substantive. You can't factually support this. It doesn't make any sense. Like, you could say what you must and be like, well, of course he solos Kaguya. The fans on the internet said so. This is the same with canon. You see it argued in the Western fandom. You see it being, like, perpetuated a lot. But then when you look at the evidence, it's, like, not really in support of it. And it's kind of against it. And it's all kind of contradictory nonsense made to justify a belief in a certain idea that is perpetuated from dislike of certain material. Like, it's not actually based on anything. That's kind of the problem with the Western Naruto fan base. They kind of believe in these ideas, but they're not really factual. And, you know, they'll argue to the death that it is, and it's like, I mean, I guess you can, you can believe that the grass is purple and the sun is pink, but just because you believe in something doesn't make it true. And of course, if this video takes off, I'm gonna have Boruto stands in the comments freaking out going, of course he could solo Kaguya. And it's like, he's this rank, or he was off guard, and LOL Madara, though. Of course, I can explain to the end of the earth that, Zetsu had this, like, goo thing that was restraining Madara. He had this black goo that was restraining him, and when he stabbed him, Madara was still talking like nothing happened. And it wasn't just Zetsu. He was attached to Six Paths Obito, who later on was, like, deflecting shit from Kaguya. But, turn your brain off. Equivalencies don't matter. Logic doesn't matter. Obito lost to Zetsu. Zetsu solos everybody because I don't really care about logic. And the thing is, too, Boruto is such a shit show. Like, of course, this is gonna make people say I'm biased, but it's like, there's no real quality to it. The characters just exist in a vacuum. There's no connection to anything. Naruto was an interconnected web. Like, that's what you could say was going on with Naruto. There was an interconnected web that these characters existed in. It was like an actual world. People talked to each other that had no reasons being connected. Like, Chio knew Hanzo. They were, like, fighting in the war. And Hanzo fought with, like, Pain. And Hanzo was, like, a enemy of Mifune. And it's like these characters have long interconnected histories that are all interconnected. And it made it feel like it's, like, an actual world. It's, like, an actual place that exists. And then when you go to, Boruto, everything exists in a vacuum. Shizuma and her, like, army of the Seven Swordsmen of the Mist that are, like, knockoff dollar store versions of what the originals once were. Those ones, they fight Boruto and his, like, stupid friends, and then they fuck off and never show up again. I guess they show up again, but it's not really consequential. But the point being, it's like, it doesn't really connect to anything. These characters show up, they never get mentioned again, they never connect to anyone, and then it's over. There's no connection to anything. And you could say, well, Bob, you defend filler, and filler does the same thing too, but filler actually has narrative. It often delivers backstories to more minor characters, and does service to the more minor characters. Example being, Yamato's backstory, where he was like a smoke ninja, where he, like, could turn into smoke or whatever. Yeah, there's stuff like that that like adds to the character of these characters, and it makes the world more expansive. Of course, you'll have ostrich ninja shit, but like with Boruto, all the fillers are ostrich ninja bullshit. But they'll defend it with Boruto because with Boruto it's okay or something. You literally have them fighting a panda bear. Like, I don't mean ninja panda bear. I mean normal ass panda bear. Like, it's just a normal ass panda bear. And you'll have Kawaki fighting the fucking panda bear. You'll have Boruto fighting the fucking panda bear. You'll have like random people fighting the panda bear. And the thing is this goes back to the power scaling argument. You'll have people who will say Boruto's like planet level or whatever, and then like in the show he's like losing to panda bears. He's losing to, Hisame dollar store version. He's losing to whatever the fuck his name is. Help me. Oh yeah, he's losing to New, like the chimera weird looking thing. He's losing to Shino. He's losing to Hinabi. He's losing to adult Naruto. He's losing to random ass dudes who show up once and never show up again, like that mafia guy from the Mujima Bandits arc. The guy who tried to eat a kid's head off? That guy. I can't remember his name because he's so fucking irrelevant. Sojiki or something? I don't even remember his name. He's so fucking irrelevant. He shows up once, never shows up again. But the point being with that is, like, he loses to these random ass fighters. Oh yeah, he struggled with O too. And then people are like, yep, multiverse level Boruto, planet level Boruto. And it's like, whatever you say, man. Facts of the matter being is, like, they reduced the scale. Kishimoto said this, and this is because of how they're handling it. This is part 1 Naruto, but for Boruto. Like, this is the Naruto show, but Boruto. And so when Naruto is going to part 2, he's probably going to be amped. I think he is kind of amped, because, they did that with Shippuden. He got, like, an off-screen power-up. I hated that. I think they should have made filler to kind of explore what happened between the events of Shippuden and, like, part 1. Like, to see the training that occurred with Jiraiya. I think they probably made a bit of it, but I would have loved to see expansion on that. That would have been interesting. The problem being, though, is, like, the series effectively treats it like this is part 1 Naruto, but for, Boruto. That's why they always manage to nerf Naruto, make him rusty, make him lose Kurama, whatever the fuck they want to do. The only difference with the rusty and Kurama thing is the fans accepted it, because it was a lot more blatant, and I think it was probably a bigger nerf, too. It's big enough of a nerf that I think, like, the average normie who isn't a diehard Boruto scaler, it's kind of hard to deny at that point. Like, you can kind of, like, narrativize your way to deny the rusty thing. You'll have people saying it's battle senses or whatever. Even though the scan in question is talking about him getting damaged by Shin's blade, like, Kurama's like, this is pathetic, why are you getting damaged by this? But of course, it's just battle senses, he's unable to, like, dodge it or whatever. Even though that's not the context of what Kurama's talking about, but who gives a shit? It's like with religious preachers who want to convince people of whatever religion. They kind of got their ideology and they gotta, like, perpetuate it. And the thing is, it's like, it's not just one example. I'd be here for like hours. I'd be here for like days telling you every single intricacy of why Boruto is fodder or why it's weak compared to Shippuden. Like, the evidence is so monstrous against the Boruto stands. Like, I could go on all day. Delta being scared to enter the Wheat Village, Code getting restrained by Shikamaru, Delta getting, dodged by Shikamaru, Kenshiki getting restrained by not Kishimoto, Shikamaru, oh yeah, the Kages beating up Momoshiki, Kenshiki, Ishiki, struggling with Jiraiya. Kind of mentioned that already. Yoshiki doing the same thing. Um, there, lots of other stuff. I mean, this is a 15-minute video, right? And I'm not gonna make it any much longer than this. I might go on for a couple more minutes, but like the evidence is just so numerous. Like it's so baffling to me that people accuse me of bias. The evidence is so huge that I don't know how you couldn't see it. I mean, of course it's bias, but like, and then people will say, what about with the Android Saga? Didn't they not have feats then? It's like, I could see that argument. You could be like, well, they didn't have feats, but the thing is that's following right after the Frieza Saga. Frieza shows up, like, this is right after. Frieza shows up, Trunks cuts him up, they one of the androids, and right after that occurs, we have the Android Saga. They train because Trunks warns them, and it's directly following. Like, there's no time for them to get rusty, so the argument doesn't work. And when there is a time for them to get rusty, they explicitly tell us in the Buu Saga, Gohan is rusty, and he's weaker. And everybody, raises their hands up, and they're like, okay, I accept that. And then when the same thing happens to Naruto, it's like, oh my god, that can't be true. And you'll have another dumb argument like, oh, Kurama is now 2 halves instead of, 1 half, so Naruto's like a million times stronger. But that isn't reflected in the narrative. It's never argued by, like, Sasuke that Naruto is now stronger because he has the other half of Kurama. Naruto is equal to Sasuke in Boruto. That's a fact. And Sasuke in Boruto has no notable amps. He doesn't have another half of Kurama. So, like, if the argument is he got a half of Kurama, so now he's like a million times stronger. So why is Sasuke equal to him then? How did Sasuke get a whole half of Kurama amp? He lost his arm. Is losing a whim that much of an amp? And all he did between Shippuden and Boruto was fighting Shino Shitoke. That's all he did, unless I'm missing something. And even then, that was one time, and it was 5 or 6 years before the events of Boruto, because Sawada wasn't even born yet. Maybe even 10 years, because like I said, Sawada wasn't born yet. So this isn't even a good argument for the rusty thing. And even then, in the last, it said he got like a tiny bit stronger, Naruto. Even though the last version is weaker because, he's using Biju Sage mode instead of 6 paths. Because he lost it magically for some reason. Don't ask me how. People are gonna bitch and say, he never lost the 6 path Sage mode. He never lost it. And it's like, he did. He doesn't fly anymore. He doesn't have TSB. He doesn't have tan skin anymore. He doesn't have the Tomei on his back. He doesn't have it. I don't know why. He just doesn't have it. That's how it's wrote. People bitch at me, but it's like, that's how the narrative portrays it. If that pisses you off, then go watch another series. Go watch another new YouTube channel, which conforms to your beliefs. And, I mean, there's enough channels on the internet which will parrot the fandom belief, that it's, kind of stupid to be like so up in arms that one guy on the internet disagrees with you. And if there are people who kind of agree with my stance on things, this is your channel. We're not gonna have another one. There's Daigo Knight, but he's kind of like half on the side of Boruto stance.